Hello, everyone. Welcome to the JuvoHub Podcast, where learning leads. I'm your host, Jonathan Saar, and today I am joined by my mentor, my friend, Doug Chasick. For those who are new to this show or new to the industry, this man has been around for decades and has led the industry, training, learning and development, skills. He was one of my instructors at NAAEI for the facilitation. What's it called, Doug? The name of that certification? The
Advanced Facilitator Training.
Advanced Facilitator Training. I learned, man, list goes on and on of where this amazing professional has helped me in my professional career. So I want to just take a moment and express my sincerest gratitude to you, Doug, and thank you for being on the JuvoHub podcast today. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you with us.
Well, thanks for the invite and thanks for that very generous introduction. And the pressure.
Well, now we can have some fun. We got I mean every moment of it. I was there at multifamily brainstorming with the honor you received from that. Anyway, the list goes on and on. Go on LinkedIn, everyone, and you will see what I'm talking about. So for our young people who are listening to this show, yeah, check it out because it's very comforting to look at our industry and see ones like yourself, Doug, who have seen it all. You've seen all of the changes in property management. And so what you bring to the table for this topic today is very, very helpful. It's very insightful for anybody who's in learning and development with what are we doing with training and what are we doing with how our teammates, how they retain information. So the focus being today is fair housing compliance, the changes, all the things that we're seeing. So let's kick it to you, Doug. With that topic in mind, what are you seeing? What is exciting? What's not exciting? Positive, negative? What's your assessment of where we're at today?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm not an attorney, just to be clear. In that great list of accomplishments you went through, law school graduation was not one of them.
Got it.
Although I was a big fan of Law and Order. I watched it religiously. You know, what I see today is concerning and sad. The chaos, the noise that's out there these days. It's so important to remember that fair housing compliance is about policy and not politics. The Fair Housing Act, Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act in 1968, is alive and well and enshrined in the laws of our country. And while the current environment may look like things are not being enforced or being overlooked, I can assure you that even if at the federal level things are not being looked at as closely, that compliance is still being a major focus of state and local jurisdictions. Remember, any legislative body can create protected classes and can create fair housing laws. What concerns me is people getting kind of sidetracked by the noise of, every day there's an article about this or that or the other thing, and you gotta put the blinders on to a certain extent and stay focused on what I call the three legs of the fair housing compliance chair: equal opportunity, equal access, equal enjoyment. When we focus on that, and when we focus on that as a way to be, instead of just as, what can I say? What can I say? What can I do? When we focus on it as a way to be, as part of our ground of being, then compliance goes from being a chore to being a privilege, to being, I mean, how do you how do you say allowing everyone who's qualified to buy or lease the home of their choice and to have equal access and equal enjoyment of that home? Please poke some holes in that for me. What's wrong with that?
Right.
Where's the problem?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one part, is just the context of the way fair housing compliance seems to be held these days, because it is very confusing, especially when you look at the fact that a lot of companies are not relying on old hiring methodologies, that, the old mantra of you need 5 years experience, 10 years experience. No, most companies these days are like hire for attitude, train for skill. So you're bringing in all these people from outside the industry, hospitality,
Mm-hmm.
food and beverage, retail, great people who have face-to-face customer experience. They don't know from fair housing, because fair housing only exists in our industry. And that's the second part of my concern, aside from the noise, is, are we really training people? I feel like we're more curators of information than trainers, because, people come to us and they attend an hour of how to qualify somebody to have a service dog. But did their supervisor know what where they were going to learn? Did their supervisor set up any learning objectives? Aside from answering an assessment, has there been any application, or is it being managed to? It's like we're the shortcut to Google. Yeah, here's $99. I'll sit for an hour and check the box, and okay, I have fair housing training. Turn me loose.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
very troubling.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And especially your comment there about ones coming from outside the industry. I think of personal conversations I've had with people, and to just try to sum up fair housing in a few sentences, they're like, that exists? Younger ones especially, they're like, never heard of it before. I had a conversation with someone who's like, yeah, I'm can't wait I'm buying this 6-unit property. It's 3 apartments, bottom floor, 3 apartments, the top floor. I'm like, and they're so excited because they're getting their first real estate opportunity. You can imagine my wife and I sitting here like, yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So have you taken fair housing training? And they looked at us with, no clue.
Deer in the headlights.
Exactly. And then it really was an eye opener for them of how much, and that's just one topic when it comes to real estate, but how much is involved when it comes to compliance within our industry. And so, taking someone who is, their bread and butter has been in the restaurant industry, hospitality, amazing customer service skills. They're that 5-star person that you bring in. You see all the good attitude, the good people skills, and that's amazing. But then you give them something that is so out of their comfort zone, which is, how do you balance the two between giving someone everything that they want to rent an apartment, but now fair housing best practices and application has to come into play. And that can be a very difficult disconnect from someone who just takes a course, gets 85%, and not really seeing the practical value it has in their day-to-day job. That is a very important point for our audience to connect with.
But wait, there's more.
I know there is.
It gets worse. It gets worse, because after the class, where do they go for advice?
Yeah.
They go out to social media and they enlist the help of the cadre of graduates of the Facebook School of Fair Housing Law.
Yep.
Known by their handle, Anonymous, because When I want fair housing advice, I want it from someone named Anonymous.
That's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is scary to the point of, I'm down here in Florida, and as you can imagine, we have lots of folks my age down here. I
Mm-hmm.
am I am considered a senior. Actually, this is my 50th year in the industry.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been around for a
Amazing.
while.
Congratulations.
So thank you. So we have lots of senior living communities here. HOPA, housing for older persons communities.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of them that advertise, it's all white people in the ads. Something that is so patently illegal.
Yeah.
Ad after ad after ad. And yet, do the ads stop? They're on TV. Some people still use print down here. Something that simple and that obvious that's out there, Jonathan, I'm not exaggerating. I'm telling you, for years, I see these ads.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a conundrum. It's like, well, should I turn them in? I mean, I'm a real estate broker in Florida. Should I rat them out? This is so far I've done nothing, I'll admit. But so if it's something in the open, in the wide open like that, what goes on behind closed doors? What
Yeah.
goes on when people are using? There's chat boards that I'm no longer active on because they scare me. I see the responses and the way that they're not moderated, and responses that are dangerously inaccurate,
Yeah.
and they sit there. So again, it's not just that the training doesn't appear to be effective, but now social media acts against the training. How do we filter it? How do we determine what's appropriate and what is, dare I say, fake news?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that brings it back to just sometimes with some organizations, there's always been the disconnect about learning and development, and where there's that follow up that comes with training. So to take your example, yeah, why is an employee at your organization going to social media in a chat scenario and asking questions like that? What's your policies when it comes to being able to get answers to those types of questions? That's something that is a takeaway for our audience today, is like, well, what do you have in place? Do you even know it's happening? How are you monitoring it? Is your learning and development team? And if you don't have a team available, maybe you're a smaller property management company, and that's okay. Maybe not have all the resources. Like, what do you have in place? Because it is such a major item when it comes to compliance and property management. You can't just check that box, as you mentioned earlier. They're certified. They got a plus on their course, on their online course, their webinar, wherever they took their class, and that means they're ready to hit the ground running. Now, not something of this caliber. It shouldn't stop there. So, your perspective then, Doug, on maybe the other side of the coin, where we've had people on the show, and I think you and I have talked about this many times, about things like secret shops, mystery shops, where that training tool, supposed to be a training tool, is used to kind of weaponize success as a person. You're great at closing skills. You're not great at closing skills. You're great with that intro. You're great with portraying curb appeal, or you're not. It's all these numbers that are used, and they're sometimes used as a fear tactic versus a way to empower someone. So with fair housing, what's your perspective on go back to that person who comes from the hospitality industry. We want all of your customer service skills. We want you to do all of that, but don't you dare ever say anything about where the children play and where it's better place for an older person to live or anything like that. Like, where's the balance between the two?
Yeah, I'm just jotting down some notes here as far as that you packed a lot in there, and I'd like to respond to it because it was all great stuff. For the first thing is that in terms of resources, and you nailed it, because a lot of companies aren't large enough to have their own in-house fair housing expert. Sub it out. There's companies out there that you can use as a resource. One of the biggest mistakes I see in my travels are people using their landlord-tenant attorney like a fair housing expert. Just because you're a great landlord-tenant attorney doesn't mean you're a fair housing expert. So if you're going to ask fair housing questions, then vet. You may need two attorneys. You may need a fair housing attorney and a landlord-tenant attorney. That's number one. Number two, we kid about the only constant in life is change. And you and I were talking earlier about all the changes in technology and the use of artificial intelligence. And it's all great, used properly. But there are also some things that have withstood the test of time. And one of them, and I think you'll recall, back when I was on a kick with the 6 disciplines of learning, I don't even know how many decades old that is. That's kind of like Covey, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
That is time tested. Well, part of the conundrum to address that, don't you talk about where the kids are, is having a learning plan, having learning and development be a process instead of an event.
Right.
We have learning as an event. Show up 2:30 Wednesday afternoon. Camera must be on because we don't trust you. So your camera has to be on for the entire class. Versus, okay, I'm your manager. I've taken the course, so I know what you're going to learn. Here are your 3 learning objectives for you to focus on during the course. Okay, now you took the course, now you passed their assessment. Now we're going to have a post-training meeting where I'm going to give you 5 scenarios, and you're going to show me that you know how to apply what it is that you just learned.
Yep.
Now, for the next month, every Friday, we're going to have a 15-minute conversation, and you're going to tell me about any situations that you felt were related to fair housing, what you did about it, how you managed it. Even language. We talk about handling something. Handling versus managing. We're going to handle a problem resident. Really? How are you going to handle them? You're going to put gloves on and grab them by the shoulders, the thick gloves, so they can't bite you. Just those little nuances, I think, are part of what confuses people, as opposed to clarity. And in all of this, Jonathan, here's the foundation. We need to spend a whole lot more time talking about the why and a lot less time talking about the how. Because if you, in fact, have hired that intelligent person, when you explain clearly and fully the why, they'll get the how. It'll be as clear as the nose on their face.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, I love it. And for our audience, this is... I'll share a recent experience that I had that I really feel resonates with how everyone learns. Now, I know every person's unique with their learning style. Some of us are, we're tactile. Some of us are very visual. We need, so we've got all of that. That's a whole other show. We can break all those different types of learning discipline types. But the practical is the takeaway from everything you said, Doug. Like if there's not a practical application, there is no way it's going to be retained. I went through a bunch of AI related training and another piece of software that I'm going to be using for work. And it was hours and hours and hours and hours of training. Nothing against the training. Training was fine. Training was amazing. Training was very informative. It was very engaging. I enjoyed it. I'm like, yes, this is a great overview. This morning, when I went to use it, and there was a certain process to use this product, like, I don't remember. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to click. And it was there. It's not like it wasn't there. But now, in a practical sense, I needed to use what I had been trained on. And I think that applies to everything. It definitely applies to fair housing. Is where is the application? I love your comment there about, hey, what happened? What scenarios? Give me some ideas of conversations that you had with residents or with potential prospects. Like, what was that like, and being able to be there to reinforce where fair housing applied, didn't apply, could have applied. That's where the magic, so to speak, comes with consuming and being able to see where fair housing really applies in your job and what you do. So awesome.
It's all about the why. It's all about the why. I mean, regardless, we always talk when we're doing sales training, or at least we used to. I may have just dated myself, but I always talked about WIFM, what's in it for me. Mm-hmm. And people have self-interest, even those of us with no ego. We all have what's in it for me, and what's in it for me doesn't. I'm sure you remember when we were in AFT, and we would talk about when we were in structure and content, and we would talk about the benefit. And the benefit, for example, of a leasing professional was not always more commission. That's not what drives everybody. Some people are driven by the ability to provide a home for somebody. Okay? Not everybody's money driven. That's okay.
Yep.
So when you talk about the why, you're talking about the what's in it for them. And that's how they take ownership. It's the difference between I'm going to execute your policy versus I'm going to execute our policy. Yeah. The more I know why we're doing this, the more I know what's in it for me, the more ownership I have in it, the more I can take responsibility. However, it takes time and patience to effectively communicate the why. And exactly. We are so time bound. It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
Yep. Yeah. And every challenge, there's lots of challenges. I think to kind of wrap things up for our audience, here's my key takeaways so far. We'll call them today's class objectives, to use your phrase. Very important. You got to have objectives. That's what JuvoHub is all about. We want to help our trainers, help the learning industry. We've really highlighted the generations, like you said, the Fair Housing Act, 1968. We've had a lot of changes. We can't sit on our heels with all the things that are going on within politics right now. It is here. We don't want to use it as a weapon. but don't.
Or excuse me for interrupting. We don't want to
Yep.
use it as an excuse. We don't want to use it
Good.
as a rationalization for inaction. Well, I think I'll wait till the word from above comes.
Exactly.
No, it's there.
Yes.
Race, color.
Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. It's good. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, because that's the other end of the pendulum. It's the other end of the meter here, and there's got to be a good balance somewhere in between. So for our trainers, make sure your team is getting good advice, not from a Facebook chat group. It's not recommended. There's plenty of resources that are out there. And to kind of wrap it up, Doug, like we've really highlighted the asynchronous component of training when it comes to fair housing, and even synchronous types of training, to the proactive approach of individual application with all the different learning styles that we have out there. So for our audience, what would be your comment or recommendation when it comes to, for that new hire? Let's go back to our example. So we have someone from the hospitality industry. They come into our industry. They've got 90% of the skills that we're looking for. The compliance, we know, is huge, because it's that piece that could really land a property management company in hot water if there's a slip of the tongue. We know, we read about it all the time. So what's your formula for a proactive approach for that scenario? What would be some of your pieces of advice for that?
Great question. Number one, begin with the end in mind. What's the point? What's the purpose? When I used to do training for people, the first question on my questionnaire for a new client was, after someone completes the training, how will their behavior have changed? Okay, because again, let's break it down. Let's keep it simple. That training is not about improving performance. Training is about changing behavior. It's the changed behavior that creates the difference in performance. So what is it? What is the point of the training? Number one.
Okay.
Know your demographic. I mean, studies have shown for the last 7 years, disability complaints alleging discrimination due to a disability have accounted for almost half or more than half of all complaints. Okay, so who's your audience? When I say audience, who is your customers? Who's your demographics? If you're at a community that's more seniors, then it's important for your new hires to understand disability, to understand that, yes, Virginia, there is special treatment. I don't care what you heard before. People with disabilities get special treatment.
Yep.
We call it a reasonable accommodation or a reasonable modification. But when your maintenance guy's walking around befuddled because he works at a no pets community and Doug has a dog, why does Doug have a dog? Well, Doug has a disability, and the disability allows him to make a request for an accommodation.
Right.
And if the accommodation is reasonable, da-da-da-da-da. So what is it that you want to accomplish? What do you want it to look like at the end? Who's the demographic? What do you need to focus on? Is your demographic primarily non-English speaking? Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about disability. We're going to talk a lot about national origin and limited English proficiency. And, what is it? Are you in a maybe a C- or a D property? You're going to have more applicants who are financially challenged. Do you know how to correctly calculate a resident's portion of the rent when the resident receives a Section 8 housing choice voucher? Do you know what your local laws are with regard to criminal background checks? I think rather than this giant broad brush approach that we take with fair housing essentials, yeah, that's important. But, let's go back to training and development 101. Need to know, nice to know. And it's going to vary by property. It's going to vary by profile. Yes, I use that dirty word, profile. But it's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what is it that you want to accomplish? Who do you have to work with? Now, what's the time frame? What are the resources? In other words, how can I help you? Here's some books. Here's some websites. Here's my phone number. Here's our fair housing attorney. Here's the Fair Housing Institute. Here's IREM.
Yep.
Okay? Give people the resources. And then finally, something that I learned a long time ago, which is you got to trust. You got to trust the people you hire. Okay? You got to trust them. And that means never do for a student what they can do for themselves. Never do for a student what they can do for themselves. Point them in the right direction. Give them the access to the tools. Give them the appropriate levels of authority, responsibility, and accountability, and then get the hell out of the way and be there as a resource. And that's going to work with 94% of the human race. And the other 6% are going to bite you in the butt, and that's just part of life.
Yeah. Amazing. And that's what we call a mic drop right there, my friend. That was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning those resources too, because our industry does do a good job of providing a lot that's out there. So we're not on our own. Even if we are a small company, there are a lot of institutions and
the resources are out there. Why are you going to Facebook?
Yeah. Say no to Facebook. Don't do that. Very good.
Just say no.
Just say no to Facebook. Yeah. Nothing against Facebook. Don't sue me, Facebook.
No, nothing against Facebook. You, Facebook. I love Facebook. I have 3 different pages on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, even you said at the beginning, fair housing advice there.
Exactly. It's like your disclaimer, and with the Fair Housing Institute, we do the same thing. It's like, this is not legal advice, and these are attorneys that are saying stuff.
See this?
Yeah. What is it?
I don't eat soup with it. Okay.
That's exactly very good. Good visual for our podcast listeners. That was a pen he was holding up. So yeah, don't use the right tools. But thank you, and I think our learning and development nerds loved the target audience, the way that you explained that there at the end. Like, know who you're with, who is your student, who is your student dealing with. Have those things in mind as you're working to make sure that they are retaining what is going to be helpful to their job.
You do this all the time, man. What do you do when you get up in a live setting? You read the room.
Yes.
You read the room.
Yeah. Yeah. And we forget that. The technology sometimes can be like, but if you do the exercise ahead of time as a trainer, as a mentor, whatever the role is that you play in your company, it's really going to help you with, like you said, Doug, the why. This is for you. I'm making training content that is going to benefit you and help you with your job.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, everyone, just make sure that you check out Doug on LinkedIn, Doug Chasick. The link will be in the show notes. And Doug, I know we're going to have you back for another episode, but this has been fabulous. I mean, a great way to take about a peek into one of the most important topics in property management, and just get our audience to don't get caught up in the hype. Focus on what is practical. So thank you for your insights and for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks again for having me. And everyone, True north. True north.
There we go. There we go. Until next time, class dismissed.